Hello everyone. This is meditation teacher Anthony Profeta, and today I'm going to guide you in what is known as a method of meditation that's often referred to as breath awareness, which often falls under a category of mindfulness techniques or mindfulness activities. Now, I know what some of you might be saying. Oh, I've tried meditation before, and I just can't empty my mind of thoughts. I can't seem to quiet my mind. Now, let me just start out by demystifying the practice a little bit, because the truth is that it's not about emptying our mind of thoughts. If you think the purpose of meditation is to have no thoughts, then yes, you are going to have a very difficult time with meditation. You are going to become frustrated. That is actually sort of a myth. The thing about meditation is what we're trying to do is through practices cultivate the mind's ability to concentrate and to focus. We're trying to teach the mind how to pay attention to something. And there are many ways to do that. There are thousands of ways to meditate. There's techniques where we, put our awareness and attention on something known as a mantra, a word or a series of words we might silently think or chant to ourselves over and over again. There's visualization techniques. There's walking meditations, eating meditations. There are meditations where you're staring at a candle flame. So there's always in meditation something that we're just trying to focus our attention upon. We're trying to pay attention to this thing. And what we do is when the mind begins to wander, when thoughts arise and distractions arise, when the mind goes to think about thoughts of the past or thoughts of the future, or sensations in the body, aches and pains begin to pull it away from the object of meditation, then what we do is we don't get upset, we don't get frustrated. We simply gently and lovingly just return ourselves back to the object of meditation again. And that's really all there is to it. It's just trying to focus, and we notice that it's not easy at all. The mind has a mind of its own. We tell it, okay, we want you to pay attention to this, and then it says, no, this is boring. I want to go think about this, or I got to worry about this. And what we do is we begin to notice that sort of default state of the mind, because it's just another thing that you need to realize is the mind is just doing what it's been conditioned to do, and that's think. The mind has been created to think like our heart has been created to beat. And to tell your mind to have no thoughts is like telling your heart, hey, stop beating. You're just not going to be able to do it. So what we need to do is learn how to have a relationship with the mind and how to really cultivate a little control of it. Because what's happened is we've allowed the mind to have free reign, to just go think whatever thought it wants to think whenever it wants to think it. Go back to think a thought of the past, then it thinks, like I said, projects to something about you got to worry about in the future. Then it might go back to think about something that happened 15 years ago. There seems to be no real rhyme or reason behind the sequence of thoughts that are arising and passing away within our consciousness either. So what we want to do is try to harness that. We want to try to pull back the reins on that a little bit. And that's what the returning to the object over and over and over again begins to do. See, what we're doing is we're cultivating, again, this mind's ability to concentrate, to focus, to pay attention to something. But unfortunately, we really have never been taught how to pay attention, how to build up this sense of awareness itself. Maybe some of you were like me in school where you were yelled at by a teacher to pay attention, and that's wonderful that they did. I understand what they wanted us to do. They wanted us to learn and understand the concepts that they were trying to share with us, but to just yell at somebody to pay attention doesn't help. How about showing us how to do it? And that's what meditation and mindfulness practices do. So what they do is they tell you to put your attention upon something. And then whenever this mind begins to wander, just don't worry, don't get upset. It's just thinking, just gently and lovingly come back. Bring it back to whatever you were trying to focus upon. And what you're doing by that continual bringing back over and over and over again is you're strengthening your mind's attention muscle. You're teaching it how to pay attention. You're teaching the mind to focus, how to concentrate. And then what you begin to build up is really a superpower. You become a superhero because what you're doing is you're teaching your mind to say, hey, you're teaching your mind how to pay attention. You're putting your mind where you want it, when you want it there, for as long as you want it there. And that's a very powerful ability. That's a profound ability. Because if we can be dwelling more upon positive things, positive thoughts, then what begins to happen is we begin to see that more in our life around us. What the mind dwells upon is what it sees. What it thinks about, it becomes. And so we want to really learn how to put the mind where we want it to stay. And that's what these practices allow you to do. And by default, what begins to happen is as you build up your mind's ability to concentrate, what they call it in meditation practices is creating a single pointed mind, a mind that can stay on a thing for a period of time. And what you begin to do as you build up that ability to focus, concentrate, and create that single pointed mind is the wandering begins to subside. The thoughts about the past and future begin to lessen. And then by default, what happens is this wandering lessens. So you begin to create that still, empty, or clear mind. So it's not that we're forcing the mind to have no thoughts. If you fight with the mind, if you try to battle with the mind, I tell you now, you are going to lose. The mind will always win. So don't get in a fight with it. Don't try to struggle with it. Don't try to beat down or suppress your thoughts. It's not a battle. It's just whenever the mind wanders, you gently and lovingly refocus it. My great teacher and dearest mentor, Jack Kornfield, often likens the training of the mind, or the building up of concentration and focus, to the training of a puppy. So before we begin, I'd like to share this analogy with you because it really might resonate and help you understand clearly what's beginning to happen. You see, pretend we had a little puppy that we are going to train, but it's brand new, so it has no idea of any commands. It doesn't know anything, and so we want to train it to stay. And we want to train it to stay on a piece of paper. So we put some paper down and we tell it to stay on that paper. But does the puppy understand the command? No. So it goes running off in this direction. Well, what we have to do is we have to go get the puppy and bring it back to the paper and tell it to stay again. And then the little puppy just does what puppies do and it goes running off in this direction. Well, we got to go get the puppy and keep bringing it back. Wherever it goes running off to, just keep getting it and bringing it back, bringing it back, bringing it back. And the continual practice of bringing the puppy back and continuing to really practice daily with the puppy, eventually the puppy learns the command of stay and it will stay on the piece of paper. It's the same with your mind. Right now, your mind is this little puppy, and the breath, or any object of meditation, but in this practice it's going to be the breath, is the paper you want it to stay on. So you put the little puppy mind, you tell it to focus on the breath. And after one or two breaths, what happens? The little puppy mind goes to run up and think about something that happened in the past. Get the little puppy mind from the past, let go, and bring it back to the breath, which is the paper. And just say, okay, start again, and now you put your awareness on the breath, and this time maybe 3, 4, 5 breaths later, the little puppy mind goes to think, oh, I got to do this later after my meditation. Get it from the future, let it go, and bring it back to the paper. And just keep bringing the little puppy mind back over and over and over again. Don't get upset with the puppy. Understand it doesn't know what you want it to do yet. You have to cultivate that. You have to teach it, and you have to train it. Well, it's the same thing with your mind. The mind is just this little untrained puppy. Treat it with gentleness, treat it with compassion, treat it with love. Treat yourself with patience, kindness, and compassion as you practice, and I guarantee that you'll be able to build up that ability to focus and concentrate, but it does take time. It does take dedication. It does take a daily consistent practice, just like training the puppy daily needs to be done. So now I invite you, well, first let me just go over some foundational things for people who might be new to a practice of meditation. One is you do not need to be sitting cross-legged in order to meditate. Your legs do not have to be twisted like a pretzel. I promise you. You can sit in any position that is comfortable for you. You could even lay down if you need to. However, they would recommend that unless you have a legitimate back or neck issue, that you don't try to practice from the beginning as a beginner laying down, because when the body's in a prone or lying down posture, what begins to happen is as the body gets relaxed and as the mind gets relaxed, rather than going into a meditative state, which I'll talk about in a moment, you go straight past that and into a sleep state. So if you can sit upright, please just, I would recommend you try starting with that. But the other thing that is foundational is that when the body is upright, you are creating a more sort of alert state of consciousness, a more attentive state of consciousness. And that's what a meditation state is truly about. While the body's relaxed and calm, your consciousness is trying to be very aware, alert, and attentive to something. So though the body's relaxed, your mind is actually very alert and attentive to, in this practice, the sensation of the body breathing. And now the other thing is that you can keep your hands in any position that's comfortable for you. If you're familiar with those things called mudras, you're more than welcome to hold them if that is something that you enjoy or, like I said, are familiar with. But if not, just keep your hands on your thighs, folded in your lap, or if you're on a chair with armrests, you can keep them on the armrests. Most people do close their eyes the entire time because it helps to turn the senses inwards and alleviates anything that from the outside that might be a distraction to us. But you do not have to. There are some people that you put them in the darkness, and as soon as they close their eyes, they become very, very drowsy and fall asleep. If you're one of those people, then you can try working with leaving the eyes slightly open or a little bit open and maybe looking downwards on the floor, but not looking at the floor, like in an unfocused gaze. That little opening and the little bit of light will really help to overcome those feelings of drowsiness. So now I invite you to get into any relaxed or comfortable position or posture. And just a reminder, if you are seated, just try to keep your back a little bit straight, but you're not sitting with any tension or stiffness. If you were to try to force yourself to hold an upright position, you're just going to frustrate yourself throughout the meditation. So I'm just going to guide us in now with a couple of deep, long breaths. Let's begin by taking a long, deep breath in, and slowly exhale or sigh your breath out. And take another long, deep breath in. Slowly exhale or sigh your breath out. And one more long, deep breath in. Slowly exhale or sigh your breath out. And now at this point, you're just going to allow your breath to settle to whatever its natural or regular rhythm is in this moment. At this point also, just let your breath be through the nostrils. Let the air move in and out of the nasal passages. But you're not controlling or regulating your breath in any way. You're just trying to allow the body to breathe itself. And just witness it. Observe it. Notice the process. Allow the breath to be however it is in this moment. If your breath is fast, that's fine. If it's slow, that's fine. However it's appearing is how it's supposed to be. It's not how you want it to be or expect it to be. So if you are breathing sort of shallowly, you don't need to start thinking, ooh, well, maybe I need to start taking deeper breaths. This isn't about that. And also, that was a judgment. We're trying to leave the judging mind out of this. We're just trying to be a witness and observer of breath happening however it's happening in this moment. The only agreement you make with yourself is that whenever the mind wanders, and it will wander, it's okay, you just gently and lovingly encourage yourself to let go and refocus on the breath. Think about the puppy mind running off of the paper, which is the breath, and just gently and compassionately bringing it back. Whenever it strays, just bring it back. For some people, the breath is very subtle and hard to pay attention to. What you can do in that case is see where you can best feel your breath. Now, some people actually can feel the breath moving in and out of their nasal passages and maybe even hitting the back of their throat or moving past their upper lip. But for some people, that's a very subtle area. But maybe you're noticing that as you're breathing, your chest rises and falls, or your abdomen expands and contracts with the breath. Well, what you can do in this case is you can just gently rest your hand on your belly or abdomen or even your chest. And as you're breathing, feel the expansion, feel the rise, feel the fall, feel the contraction as you breathe out. And what this is helping you to do is connect you more deeply to the sensation of breathing. And it's a very beautiful way to connect you with the practice. So if that's helpful, you can try that. For others, it might be helpful to try counting the breath to help focus your attention a little bit better. But don't count out into infinity. Do short bursts. So what I mean is inhalation, think to yourself 1. Exhalation, think to yourself 2. Inhalation 3, so on up to 10. And then start again. Because if you were to count out into infinity, the mind again would begin to wander and get distracted and lose interest. So just do a short interval. Now, I'm simply giving you a couple of tools that might be helpful for some of you, but not every tool is helpful for every individual. So for some people, counting might be more of a distraction. If so, don't use it. But just use whatever might be helpful for you. And if you're counting and you notice the mind has wandered, don't worry about where you were in the count. Just start again from 1. Refocus on the breath. And just start again. A great Zen master once said, as you do your practice, put a slight smile on your face. Because we shouldn't be looking at our practices as some grim duty, something that we're forcing ourselves to do, or just something else we've added to our to-do list. We should undertake this time as something that's playful. We should undertake this as a sense of curiosity, one in which we're coming to understand the nature of our mind, ourselves, reality. And awareness of the breath is really a wonderful tool to connect us to reality, because the truth of reality is this present moment. And while the body is present in this moment, the mind often usually is not. It's off dwelling on the past or projecting into the future. But every breath we take is happening right here and right now. We don't breathe in the past, and neither do we breathe in the future. So every breath you take and every breath you observe, and every time you come back to the breath, you're coming back and observing this present moment. So you're truly cultivating present moment awareness. If the mind wanders 100 times or 1,000 times, that's okay. Don't start thinking this is hard, I'm not good at this, I'm not a good meditator. Again, these are all judgments. Be compassionate with yourself, have patience with yourself. Just whenever you notice that the mind has wandered, just gently and lovingly encourage yourself to come back to this moment by coming back to this breath. Your breath is the anchor to this present moment. And if it wanders 1,000 times, just come back 1,001. Know that it's not failure to start again. In fact, starting again is the practice. That is the tool. It's the coming back over and over and over again that's going to strengthen our mind's ability to concentrate, to focus, and to pay attention. So the only agreement you make with yourself is that whenever the mind wanders, come back to the breath. But one more bit of advice is that please know it's not the object of meditation itself that is important. It's not the breath that is so important within this practice and this method. It's actually the awareness of the breath. Where is your awareness at? It's the attending to the breath or the attending to the object of meditation that is most important. So just whenever you notice the mind has wandered, gently and lovingly, just come back to observing the breath again. Our meditation has come to its end. You may need to bring some gentle movement back to the body by beginning to wiggle the toes, wiggle your fingers. You may want to stretch your arms or legs. You may want to even take a couple of deep breaths just to bring your awareness back to the body, grounded again in the room or wherever you're at. I thank you so much for spending this time, for learning a method of meditation which can help lead to better healing, to well-being of our body, mind, and soul. And just remember that just like the training of the puppy, this needs to be consistent. It needs to become part of your daily routine to really get any of the benefits to unfold for you as they should. If we just train the puppy today, and then next week, and then sometime next month, the training's never going to hold. And it's the same with meditation. If you train yourself or you sit for some time today, then you sit next week, and then you sit 2 months from now, you're never really going to get any of the long-term benefits out of the practice. You might get a little bit of relaxation in the moment, but the true benefits are not going to unfold for you as they should. So let it become as regular as brushing your teeth or taking a shower. And once again, I thank you all for your time. I hope that each and every one of your days is truly filled with an abundance of love, happiness, and peace.